Growing up, Michael always made sure I knew my place. He was the golden child, valedictorian, full scholarship to MIT, the one mom bragged about to neighbors. I was the practical one, as they called it. The one who worked summers at the warehouse while Michael interned at Fortune 500 companies. Sarah's different, Mom would explain to relatives. Not everyone can be brilliant like Michael. He's more hands-on. The comment stung, but I learned to smile and nod. What they didn't know was that those warehouse summers taught me more about business than Michael's theoretical classes ever could. I watched how supply chains worked, how margins moved, how small inefficiencies cost millions. While Michael studied case studies, I lived them. After college, Michael launched TechFlow Solutions with his MIT buddies. AI-powered logistics optimization for warehouses. Ironically, exactly the industry I knew inside and out. The company exploded. Within 3 years they had contracts with Amazon, FedEx, and Walmart. Michael became the family success story. "My son, the tech entrepreneur," Dad would announce at every gathering. 26 years old and already worth 8 figures. I kept working warehouse jobs, moving between companies, learning systems. Michael would pat my shoulder condescendingly at family events. "Still doing the manual labor, huh? Well, someone has to keep the wheels turning for us innovators." What Michael never bothered to ask was why I kept switching warehouse jobs. He never wondered why I had such detailed knowledge of logistics systems, or why I asked so many specific questions about his algorithms during family dinners. He was too busy enjoying being the genius. The truth was, I'd been quietly building something. Those warehouse jobs weren't just jobs, they were research. Every company I worked for gave me deeper insight into the problems TechFlow claimed to solve. And I started noticing gaps. Big ones. By age 24, I'd developed my own logistics optimization system. Not AI-powered like Michael's. Something better. Something that actually understood how warehouses really worked because I'd worked in them. Something that increased efficiency by 34% instead of TechFlow's claimed 12%. I started small. A consulting firm with warehouse efficiency solutions. 1 client became 5. 5 became 20. 20 became Fortune 100 companies quietly switching from TechFlow to my system because it actually worked better. Within 2 years, my consulting firm was generating $50 million annually. I reinvested everything into technology development and strategic acquisitions. But I kept quiet about it. Wore the same clothes to family gatherings. Drove the same old Honda. Let them think I was still just a warehouse worker. The beauty of my position was that Michael never saw me as competition. When his company needed additional funding for expansion, I made sure my investment firm, hidden behind 3 layers of shell companies, was first in line. Michael thought he was getting money from some anonymous venture capital group. He had no idea his failure sister was bankrolling his entire operation. By the time this Thanksgiving rolled around, I owned 73% of TechFlow Solutions. Michael owned 15%. His MIT buddies split the remaining 12%. But according to the paperwork, he was still CEO of his own company, still the face of his success story. The Thanksgiving dinner started normally. Michael arrived in his new Tesla, talking loudly about his latest contracts. Just closed a $40 million deal with UPS, he announced to the entire family. TechFlow is revolutionizing the industry. Everyone gathered around him, asking questions, praising his genius. I sat quietly at the far end of the table, picking at my turkey. "Sarah, how's the warehouse work going?" Aunt Linda asked, the question clearly meant to contrast with Michael's success. "Same as always," I replied. "Steady work." Michael laughed. "That's Sarah. Reliable but not ambitious. Not everyone can build an empire, right, sis?" The conversation continued around me. Michael's company, Michael's success, Michael's bright future. Cousin Jake, who worked in Michael's marketing department, kept throwing glances my way with obvious pity. Then Uncle Robert brought up the topic that changed everything. "Michael, I keep hearing about partnership opportunities in tech. Jake here has been talking about maybe investing in something bigger. You should consider bringing in some family money." Michael's eyes lit up. "Actually, I've been thinking about that. TechFlow is ready for our next growth phase. We're looking at expanding into autonomous vehicle logistics. Could use some additional family investment." "How much are we talking?" Dad asked, leaning forward with interest. "Well, for a significant stake, maybe 5%, we'd be looking at about $10 million. But that's for serious investors only. People who understand the tech industry. Jake practically bounced in his seat. I've got about 2 million I could invest. Been saving for something big like this. That could work, Michael nodded approvingly. Though you'd need to understand this is serious business. Not for everyone. That's when Jake looked directly at me. Good thing Sarah's not interested in business partnerships. No offense, but you'd need real money for something like this. Michael followed Jake's gaze and laughed. Yeah, no offense, Sarah, but this kind of investment opportunity isn't really for your situation. What do you mean? I asked innocently. I mean, this is a $10 million conversation, Michael said, still chuckling. You work at a warehouse. This is venture capital level stuff. Cousin Jake nodded enthusiastically. You're too poor to be a business partner, he said with a grin. Stick to your warehouse job. The table erupted in laughter. Even Mom smiled. Jake's just being honest, dear. Michael's company is for serious investors. I looked around the table at their faces. Michael's patronizing smirk. Jake's obvious pleasure at putting me in my place. Dad's approving nod at what he saw as appropriate boundaries. Mom's gentle but dismissive smile. You're absolutely right, I said quietly, returning to my turkey. I should stick to what I know. The conversation moved on. Michael and Jake spent the next hour planning Jake's investment. Michael explained how Jake would get 0.2% of the company for his $2 million. A steal for family, he said generously. I listened to every word while finishing my dinner in silence. Michael had no idea he was selling Jake shares in a company that I controlled. Jake had no idea he was about to invest in a business that could disappear overnight if I decided to pull my funding. After dinner, I helped Mom clean dishes while the men continued their business talk in the living room. Don't feel bad about not being included, Mom whispered as we loaded the dishwasher. Michael's just trying to protect you from losing money you don't have. I appreciate that, I said, meaning it in a way she couldn't understand. I left early, citing a long day at work tomorrow. Michael barely looked up from his conversation with Jake to wave goodbye. See you at Christmas, sis. Maybe by then you'll have gotten that promotion to supervisor. The laughter followed me out the door. I drove home to my modest apartment, the same one I'd lived in for 3 years, despite being able to afford a mansion. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and opened my laptop. My phone showed 17 missed calls from my portfolio manager, David Chin. He'd been trying to reach me all evening, probably with updates on the quarterly reports. David managed my investment portfolio through Meridian Capital, the firm I'd used to acquire my stake in TechFlow. I called him back at 9 p.m. Sarah, thank God, David's voice was urgent. I've been trying to reach you for hours. We need to discuss the TechFlow situation. What about it? Their Q3 reports came in today. The company is in serious trouble. Revenue projections are down 40% from last quarter. They're burning through cash faster than projected, and their main competitor just launched a superior product. Michael Kim doesn't know it yet, but TechFlow is about 6 months from bankruptcy without additional funding. I wasn't surprised. I'd been watching TechFlow's real numbers for months through my majority ownership. Michael was brilliant at marketing and raising money, but terrible at actual business operations. His AI system looked impressive in demos but failed in real-world applications. Companies were quietly switching to competitors, including my consulting firm, but Michael was too focused on fundraising to notice. What are my options? I asked. Well, you own 73% of the company. You could inject additional capital to keep it afloat, but honestly it would be throwing good money after bad. The technology gap is too wide to close. Or you could liquidate your position. Withdraw your investment and let the company restructure. Michael would lose control, but the technology and employee base might be valuable to an acquirer. I thought about Michael's laughing face at dinner. Jake's dismissive comments. The family's automatic assumption that I was too poor and stupid to understand business. David, I want you to arrange an immediate liquidation of all Meridian Capital holdings in TechFlow Solutions. Full withdrawal. There was a pause. Sarah, that's $94 million. If we pull that out, the company will collapse within weeks. Are you sure? I'm sure. And the timing? We could structure this over several months to minimize. No. I want it done first thing Monday morning. Full withdrawal, immediate notice to TechFlow management. That will cause a lot of chaos. Michael Kim will be completely blindsided. That's the point. David sighed. All right. I'll have the paperwork ready by 8 a.m. Monday. This will definitely make the business news. TechFlow's collapse will be pretty public. Good. One more thing. I want Jake Morrison's pending investment blocked. Put TechFlow in emergency restructuring before he can transfer any funds. Consider it done. Sarah, can I ask why the sudden decision? I thought about how to explain it. Let's just say I had dinner with the CEO tonight, and I've decided I don't want to be in business with him anymore. Monday morning, I was drinking coffee in my kitchen when my phone rang at exactly 8:47 a.m. Michael's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Then again. By 9:15 I had 12 missed calls from Michael and 6 from Jake. Finally I answered. Sarah. Michael's voice was panicked, shouting. Sarah, I need to talk to you right now. What's wrong? I asked calmly. Everything. My company, TechFlow. Our main investor just pulled out. $94 million gone. They gave notice this morning and they want everything liquidated immediately. Oh no. That sounds terrible. IT is terrible. We're completely fucked. I don't understand what happened. Meridian Capital was supposed to be a long-term partner. Now they're saying the investment was tied to performance metrics and we didn't meet targets. I could hear papers shuffling in the background, other voices talking rapidly. Michael was clearly at the office, probably in an emergency meeting. I'm so sorry to hear that, I said. Is there anything I can do to help? What? No, Sarah. This is a $94 million problem. I needed to tell someone in the family. Dad's going to kill me. I'm going to lose everything. What about Jake's investment? Didn't he say he had $2 million? Michael's laugh was bitter. Jake? His money is blocked. The company's in emergency restructuring. Nobody can invest now until we figure out this mess. His $2 million wouldn't save us anyway. We need the full 94 back or something close to it. Have you tried calling other investors? Sarah, you don't understand. This isn't about finding $2 or $3 million. This is about replacing a $94 million investment that got pulled overnight. There aren't that many people in the world who have that kind of money just sitting around. That does sound difficult, I agreed. Through the phone, I could hear someone calling Michael's name urgently. I have to go, he said. The lawyers are here. Sarah, don't tell the family about this yet, okay? I need to figure out if there's any way to save the company first. Of course. Good luck. I hung up and finished my coffee. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from Jake. Did Michael call you? Something's wrong with TechFlow. My investment got blocked. I texted back. He mentioned some investor problems. Sounds complicated. Jake. Complicated? Sarah, I was going to make serious money on this. This was my chance to get rich like Michael. Me, I'm sure you'll find other opportunities. Jake, easy for you to say. You're not losing $2 million. I almost pointed out that Jake wasn't losing $2 million. He never had the chance to invest it. But I decided to let him stay angry. By Wednesday, the news broke publicly. TechFlow Solutions, the revolutionary AI logistics startup, was filing for emergency restructuring after their primary investor withdrew $94 million in funding. Michael's face was all over the tech blogs, looking haggard and defeated. The articles were brutal. Startup founder loses $100 million company overnight. TechFlow Solutions, from rising star to bankruptcy in 72 hours. The fastest rise and fall in tech history. Michael stopped answering my calls. Jake stopped texting. The family group chat went silent. By Friday, I received a call from my consulting firm's CFO. Sarah, you're not going to believe this. 3 of TechFlow's biggest clients just reached out. They want to switch to our system immediately. They're offering a combined contract worth $67 million annually. Which clients? UPS, Amazon, and FedEx. Apparently TechFlow's system was never actually working as advertised. They were manually correcting the AI recommendations behind the scenes. Now that TechFlow is gone, they need real solutions. I smiled. Accept all 3 contracts. And promote Jennifer to head of client relations. She'll handle the transitions. This is going to put us in the top 5 logistics consulting firms in the country. I know. That weekend Dad called me directly. Sarah, have you talked to Michael recently? A few days ago. He mentioned some business troubles. Business troubles? Dad's voice was strained. Sarah, he lost everything. The entire company. He had to move back in with us. He's devastated. I'm sorry to hear that. The thing is, he keeps talking about this investor Meridian Capital. Says they destroyed his company for no reason. He's talking about lawsuits, but the lawyers say there's nothing he can do. The investment was legitimate and they had the right to withdraw. That sounds frustrating. Sarah, I need to ask you something and I want you to be honest with me. My heart rate didn't change. Of course, Dad. Michael is convinced there's something personal about this. He thinks someone specifically targeted his company. He's been going through the investor documentation, trying to figure out who actually owns Meridian Capital. Did he find anything? That's what I'm calling about. The company is owned by a series of shell corporations, but there's a name that keeps appearing in the paperwork. Someone named S. Morrison. Sarah Morrison. I paused for exactly 3 seconds. Dad, Morrison is a pretty common name. I know. But Michael is fixated on this. He keeps saying it's too much of a coincidence. A Morrison destroying his company right after Jake Morrison was supposed to invest. What are you asking me exactly? Dad's voice became gentle. Sarah, honey, I need you to tell me straight. Do you know anything about this Meridian Capital situation? I looked around my modest apartment. At my second-hand furniture and 10-year-old TV. At the warehouse uniform hanging by the door for my shift tomorrow morning. Dad, do you really think I have $94 million to invest in anything? The question hung in the air. Dad's silence stretched long enough that I could hear him thinking it through. His daughter who worked in a warehouse. Who drove a Honda Civic. Who lived in a one-bedroom apartment and worried about grocery bills. Finally he laughed. You're right. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Michael's just desperate to blame someone. The idea that you could be involved in high-level venture capital is, well, it's ridiculous. It's okay, Dad. Michael's going through a lot. He is. Listen, could you maybe call him? He needs family support right now. And maybe don't mention Jake's investment thing. He's pretty bitter about that falling through. Of course. I'll call him tonight. Thanks, Sarah. You're a good sister. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time thinking. Michael was smarter than I'd given him credit for. He'd traced the ownership back far enough to find my name. If he kept digging, if he hired the right forensic accountants, he might eventually connect all the dots. But he wouldn't. Because the one thing Michael could never overcome was his absolute certainty that his little sister was too poor and stupid to outmaneuver him. I called Michael that evening. Sarah. His voice was hollow, exhausted. Dad told me what happened. I'm so sorry. Yeah, well. Everything's gone. 5 years of work just gone. What will you do now? I don't know. Start over, I guess. Maybe get a job at another tech company. Pay off debts. Mom and Dad are letting me stay here for a while. That's good. Family support is important. Sarah, can I ask you something? Sure. Last week at Thanksgiving, when Jake said that thing about you being too poor to be a business partner, I laughed at you. I remember. I feel like shit about that now. Here I am, 30 years old, living with my parents again. And you've got a steady job in your own place. Maybe being practical isn't such a bad thing. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Everyone has ups and downs, I said. You'll figure it out. Yeah. Listen, I'm going to keep investigating this Meridian Capital thing. Something about the timing feels personal, you know? Like someone wanted to destroy me specifically. Maybe it was just bad business. Maybe. But if I find out someone deliberately sabotaged my company. Michael's voice hardened. If someone in our family was involved somehow, that would be unforgivable. Of course it would. Anyway, thanks for calling. It means a lot. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and checked my bank balances. Between my consulting firm and various investments, my net worth had crossed $400 million sometime last month. Tomorrow I'd go back to my warehouse job. I'd wear my uniform and punch my time card and let my coworkers see me as just another employee trying to pay the bills. But tonight I allowed myself a small smile. The family that had spent 15 years dismissing me as the poor failure was about to learn exactly how expensive that mistake had been. Michael's phone was still ringing. And it would keep ringing until he figured out what I'd known all along. Sometimes the person you underestimate the most is the one with the most power to destroy you. He just had to be smart enough to see it. And smart enough to admit that his practical little sister had been playing a game he never even knew existed.